Hello and welcome to this video series on how to create your PMP Exam Study Plan. Today I'm going to talk about tools and techniques, the various tools and techniques in the PMBOK guide under the various project management processes. Now, given the large number of tools and techniques, how do you really cope up with those huge number of techniques? Secondly, there could be several techniques which can be used in different situations. So I'm going to cover that today and make it a little easier for you to comprehend those various tools and techniques. So for example, let's look at, on the board here I've got different categories of techniques. Fortunately, PMBOK guide has an appendix X.6 which actually categorizes these tools and techniques into several types. We have, for example, the data gathering techniques. We've got 9 of them, which means how do we gather data? Through interviews, through focus groups, through surveys, through questionnaires and so on. Compare that with data analysis techniques. We have got huge number, 27 of them, where we analyze data. It's, for example, root cause analysis or stakeholder analysis and so on. And I've got some more examples here. Then I've got another one known as data representation. So once you have gathered the data and you have analyzed it, we need to represent it in some kind of a diagram. So I've got things like stakeholder maps and so on, affinity diagrams, etc. So these are 3 types of data related techniques. Of course, you can always go to the PMBOK guide and reach every process group, every process, every chapter and go through all the tools and techniques. You would have to do that anyway. But by understanding this categorization, it becomes easy for you to think that, oh yes, this technique is from this category. Meaning this technique is used for analysis, this is used for gathering, this is used for mapping and so on. By the way, there are some more types of techniques here as you can see on this side. I've got interpersonal and team skills. This is about interaction with people, for example, conflict management, political awareness, cultural awareness and so on. I've got a few more techniques listed here like meetings and facilitation. Then comes communication skills. There are just 2 of them, so which is easy. Presentation skills and feedback skills. Then we also got the decision making skills. There's 2 of them, voting and multi-criteria decision analysis. And lastly, there's a huge number of ungrouped techniques which are 16 number. So they are different types like inspection, audits and communication technology and so on. So this was the first point here, understanding the various categories of tools and techniques. Secondly, I would like to bring your attention to how techniques sound similar, and even if they don't sound similar, can they be used for similar reasons, similar situations? Yes. So let's get some examples now. Look at this one, check sheet and checklist. They sound very similar, don't they? But check sheet is a tabulated results of a quality control test, whereas checklist can be used to verify step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a process or in a procedure, or you can use it to verify a set of requirements, whether they have been met or not. Another example, I've got focus groups here. Focus groups are very informal. We've got a group of people in a room, subject matter experts, discussing something, but because of the informality, we don't know whether it will lead to a conclusion, certain agreements, certain buy-ins, and so on. But on this side, we have got facilitation. Facilitation is from interpersonal and team skills. They are very formal, which means that the same group of people, when they come into a formal workshop, they will have mutual agreements, buy-ins, and there are proper outcomes and action plans. So that's the difference between focus groups and facilitation. Another example, process analysis. This is used in quality management to analyze a certain process, whether it is having non-value add, any constraints, any problems, any risks, and so on. Compare that with product analysis. Product analysis is used for defining scope. It's about thinking about the product, how it should be manufactured, how many models should be there, what should be the pricing, what material should be used, and so on, and any product metrics, etc. Some more examples to really understand that there are different techniques which may sound similar. Stakeholder analysis, it's about analyzing stakeholders. Compare that with stakeholder mapping to represent them into a picture like an impact grade or a stakeholder cube. I will not be going into detail about each one of them, but I'm only bringing your attention to the nature of similar sounding techniques. A more complicated one would be sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis, let me take an example. Project schedule. it depends on, let's say, supplier performance, skill sets of the team members. So what happens when we experiment with the skill sets and the supplier performance? So we can establish a correlation factor between them, each one of them, and the output, which is the project schedule. So if I improve the supplier performance, my schedule might be better. So that's what we do in sensitivity analysis. We assign a correlation factor. Compare that with representations of uncertainty. This is also a bit similar, but it is still different. We have the same project schedule, we've got the same input parameters, but what we do now is we play with the probabilities of the input parameters. And how does that impact the probabilities of the output? So when we do that, we've got representations of uncertainty. In case we have got too many input parameters and several probabilities to work on, then we need a more complex method known as simulation. Some more examples. Look at affinity diagrams here. Grouping of ideas, grouping of issues into different categories or buckets, which is different from a context diagram. A context diagram is used to map a business process onto a piece of paper graphically. You get an image of a process, a business process. And let me take you a couple more examples. I've got P&I impact matrix versus P&I impact assessment. These two mean different. And then I've got some here, meetings versus meeting management. Meetings can be kickoff meetings, sprint meetings, planning meetings, risk meetings, and so on, whereas meeting management is about sending the agenda, sending the invitations, making sure the minutes of the meetings are published, and making sure that there are follow-up actions, etc. So that's the difference between the two. Inspection from ungrouped. Inspection, how does it compare with similar things like audits or testing and product evaluations? So inspection could be, a person inspecting a document or a plan or a product, whereas audits is much more intense. It goes through compliance checks and all that. Testing and product evaluations, on the other hand, is a structured testing of a product. So you need to be understanding these differences very clearly for the exam. And I think we don't have too much on the communication skills and decision making, but then one thing you have to be a little careful is, we have got this decision making with voting and multi-criteria decision analysis, but if you look at interpersonal skills, we have got a technique known as decision making there, which is a little different from this one. Out there, the decision making is a normal process of decision making where you consider the various factors and you think about deciding about it, whereas this is a very specific voting technique and this is a very specific multi-criteria decision analysis technique. Okay. So we have covered the various categories. We also covered that there are different similar sounding or similar purpose techniques, but which are really different. And lastly, I would like to tell you about the same technique can be used in different situations. Let's look at facilitation. If you can have a facilitation workshop in risk management to identify the risks or to analyze the risks and so on. You can also have a facilitation workshop to collect requirements, for example, a joint application development workshop, or a QFD workshop, quality function deployment workshop, or a user stories workshop. So therefore, the same technique of facilitation can be used in different knowledge areas for different purposes. With that, I have come to the end of this video. I thank you for your valuable time for watching this video. Please make sure you also watch the other ones if you haven't done so. Video number 1, which was about the success tips for the exam. It's a set of 7 videos. Video number 2, a single video about what's important for the exam, and video number 3 was about the part 3 is about what's new in the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. Particularly, I would urge you to link this topic, tools and techniques, with video number 2, which is important topics for the exam, so that you can figure out which are the techniques for those important topics. And because you're watching all these videos, you deserve to be a PMP, you ought to be a PMP. So I wish you good luck for your preparation. Do solid preparation. Thank you for watching.